He had been in jail off and on, and it was all due to things that he did while he was taking drugs. Most of the things he said he hated. He hated what the drugs were doing to him. He didn't even remember doing some of the things that he pleaded guilty to so that he could go to drug court.
He didn't want to be doing it. And, he had been in jail for 30 days, came out, whatever he took was too much. And, of course, it was fentanyl. Cherish each moment that you're alive, of your loved ones, your friends, your family, because it can be gone in an instant. We sure didn't anticipate this. It's hard to live with.
On April 14th of 1981, Joseph was born, and he was the most beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby that you could imagine. He was a fun baby, so joyful, so playful. There was never a problem with Joseph. He had a great childhood, many friends, and the most loving family that you could even ever have wished for. So he was really good at grilling. Anything spicy. He loved to make spicy food. He made homemade beef jerky, which everybody said, oh, we want that for Christmas. We don't want it. In his business, the customers did not want chocolates for Christmas. They didn't want poinsettias. They didn't want all the traditional holiday things. They begged for his homemade beef jerky. And he was an avid fisherman, an outdoorsman. He loved to fish and hunt. He loved to boat. He loved the ocean. So outdoors was his heaven on earth. He just loved the outdoors. He had a heart of gold, and he had a passion for helping other people. And it wasn't until after his passing that several people told us. One particular guy said it was in the ice storm, and Joe took his generator over to that friend so that they would have heat. Another friend said that Joseph had helped him financially so that they could afford to get fertility treatment, that him and his wife couldn't afford it, but Joe helped him. So he had a really kind heart and was wanting to share that passion with other people. And he always had one or two pair of sunglasses on, one on his eyes and one on his baseball cap. He was just very, very charismatic. And that was before that drugs took over his life. At the age of 19, he became a father. His only child, Tyler, was born, his only son, and Tyler was the love of his life. And Joe worked all day long at his job, and then he went to school at night. And all of this to provide better for his wife and his son, Tyler. So he worked hard, and whether he had an undiagnosed mental illness we're not certain of, but probably questionable ADHD, but probably and most for sure obsessive compulsive disorder. And so he got it in his mind that his job wasn't the job for him, that he was working too hard, that they didn't value him enough, and the list goes on. So he did everything in his power to try to get fired from that job. And while he was ultimately searching for another job, so he did get fired from that job, and he was offered another job that he wanted, and he went to the physical. And the next day they called and said that they had to rescind their hirement offer because he tested positive for marijuana. And he said, well, I have a marijuana card. And they said, that doesn't matter here. We're rescinding our hiring offer. So that started the spiral of his issues with drugs. I believe he had issues with drugs off and on, but earlier on, before he had a son, but this didn't spiral out until he lost his job.
After he lost his job, and before that he went through a divorce, so he's a single parent working, 10 to 12 hours a day, happened to travel out of town some. We had to help support raise the child because he had full custody of his child. So he's a single dad working full time, and then all of a sudden he's a single dad still with no job, and start hanging around people that other people didn't have jobs. And what do? Bad things.
He had this girlfriend at the time that was his trigger. She would have him so riled up emotionally that he just didn't have the coping skills to deal with it, and he did drugs. I'm not totally blaming her. I blame us too for not making sure that he had the right diagnosis. And due to the fact that he didn't have insurance at that time, made it more even complicated to get him the help that he needed. So I blame myself for that as well. You can't help the what ifs. What if I did this? What if I did that? I mean, people said all the time to my husband and I, show tough love. So we had tried everything. I mean, he didn't live with us. He was an adult. So when he was taking drugs, he would storm into the house. And the reason I told you that he had so many friends and this charismatic personality is because when he did drugs, he did none of that. He was lethargic and spiral out to angry and abusive. He didn't like it. He wanted something different for himself. And so, like I said, he had the girlfriend, and she had a protective order against him and begged him to come over. And when he got there, she had called the police. They came, and they said, is there anything in this house that would be harmful to us? And she said, I have a gun. Well, Joseph didn't know that she had a gun in the house. And so he was arrested and put in jail for violation of the protective order. And so it was around Thanksgiving of November 2021. It was a Tuesday, November 30th, when he finally was released from jail. I think he was there maybe 5 weeks, and his attorney said that the reason the judge and the police wanted to punish him to make sure that he missed a holiday with his family. So they kept him there that long, and so on the Tuesday the 30th of November that he was released. We picked him up. We'd waited for him all day long to be released, but he wasn't released till like 10 or 10:30 at night. He came home. He was so loving, so happy to see us, and he said, how much he loved us. We had a meal, his barbecue. He wanted his favorite barbecue. And we had a nice meal and talked. And he asked me to pray with him. And so we did before we ate, my husband, Joe, and I. And we thank God that he got home safely. And I prayed for God's support and help in Joseph's new journey because he was supposed to start drug court the Tuesday, just a few days later. And he was going to move to our lake house and be out of Tulsa, away from the triggers, away from all the things that was associating him with drugs. And so we talked and we laughed and we hugged, and he told us how much he loved us. And then I said, Joe, I'm going to bed. It was 11:30 by that time. We'd had a really long day. My husband waiting outside of the jail to pick him up, and come to find out that the jail was on lockdown, and all this and that led to the delays in getting him home. So he said, okay, well, what do you want to do tomorrow? And so we talked about it, and he wanted to go eat Chinese buffet. He wanted to go get a pedicure with me and get a massage. And so those were things that we liked to do together. And so I said, okay, I'll see you in the morning, and night, love you. And so we went to bed, and about 3-ish that morning, I think, I woke up, and I went out and I hollered his name. I didn't see him. I didn't hear him. All the lights were on in our house. And I thought, okay, well, he must have gone out with someone. And so I went on back to bed. And that next morning, at December 1st, at 9:15 in the morning, I was awoken by my husband. Get up, get up. There's something going on. Something's not right.
I was hollering around for him and couldn't see him. Well, he left all the lights on in the house, which he always did. I looked in his bedroom and saw him on the floor. You couldn't see him from standing outside the bedroom, but when you stepped in, he had kind of was like he was in the closet doorway and fell out. And so he was laying there between the closet and the bed, and you just couldn't see him from the doorway. You actually had to enter the room. And I was devastated. Of course, I was in shock.
I checked for a pulse, being the nurse that I am, and there was no pulse, and he was rigid. I knew he had been gone for hours. The position that his body was in, his head was lower than his body. And so his facial discoloration from the blood pooling in his head, it was terrible. So I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I don't know if I was angry. I think I was just shocked. I think I was truly in shock. And I know his dad was as well. The police came. He immediately called 911. The police came, and they made us go out of the room. But as the other paramedics were coming in, the one in there with us was shaking their head no, meaning it's past, we can't do anything. He's been gone too long. So that is always in my mind, and part of the post-traumatic stress I have from losing my son. So they promised me after they did their pictures and then their investigation that I could go in and see him again. But the next thing I know, they were wheeling him out on that stretcher in the body bag. And I said, you said you would let me see him again. And they said, ma'am, you don't want to? I said, yes, I do. You said I could. So they unzipped the body bag, and just long enough for me to hold his hand. So,
And then next thing you know, the coroner comes and the sheriff department comes, and they're asking you questions, and you're just devastated. You know, you don't really know what to do. Then they haul them out in a black bag. It's kind of tough.
so then we had the funeral planning. And it's not right for your grandson that's 20 years old to have to decide if his dad's body should be viewed. they did the full autopsy, so the craniotomy incision was at the whole back of his head. Could the makeup that they put on him cover the bruising or the bleeding that had resulted in his skin and his face? But we needed our grandson to help us make that decision. It wasn't, no parent should have to decide if their child is going to be buried or cremated. But that's the decision that we were faced with immediately because we did not know Joe's wishes. So we buried him in our family plot.
So it's been a very traumatic experience for me and my wife and all of our family going through this, and was not aware of the danger of fentanyl or even what it was. So, I mean, it was all totally new to us. We were totally ignorant of it. And prior to that, when he was having some problems with other drugs, we were totally unaware of, well, there's just not a lot of resources available anymore. The stigma of drug use is terrible. Nobody wants to deal with it. If you have money, you can pay for private, and we did. We sent him to 2 rehab facilities out of our own pocket, and they're not long enough. They're not always effective, and not knowing the right things to do to help somebody overcome their drug use when they're an adult. You know, I mean, they're an adult and they can make their own decisions, but we were trying everything we could to assist him to become back to the person he was before he started doing the drugs.
We didn't know till the very next day when I called a friend that Joseph trusted to tell him of Joe's death, and he mentioned fentanyl. I said, fentanyl? I said, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. And being a nurse, I know of pharmaceutical grade fentanyl because we used it in the cesarean section suites at the hospital. They used it in the OR. You know, fentanyl patches used for cancer patients for the excruciating pain that they're in. But I didn't know a thing about illicit manufactured fentanyl.
The detectives came still too, and you know, we, like my wife had said earlier, I don't know if he snorted it, don't know if he injected smoke, I don't know, and they never would tell you. But they did tell us that there was evidence there that it was an OD, and then I guess he may have spit up something, I don't know. There was something on the floor, on the carpet, and I think maybe his eyes, they knew he was an OD of drugs or murdered from a drug. I mean, I don't think it was intentional, but I mean, the result is he died, and someone gave him something that made him die. And so the local police really never did anything. Through our family supporting families, Nancy got in touch with the local the district attorney's office, and they did get a person investigating it, and we actually still have people investigating it right now.
It was only after Joseph's death that I was contacted by someone that wanted me to join Family Supporting Families in the Drug Crisis of Oklahoma group. And I was angry. I was so mad. How could she automatically assume that my son had died from anything to do with drugs? We had the service. We didn't, the funeral service, we didn't mention drugs. We didn't know at that time what was the cause of death. We didn't find out till 3 months later that there was nothing at all in Joe's system except 100% fentanyl. So we don't know if he took a pill. We don't know if someone put it in his drink. We don't know if he smoked it. It's just speculation on our part.
The groups have been very helpful. It's a way to feel comfortable sharing your story. I think it's good therapy to be around other people that have have some of the same experiences and dealing with the same loss. Sometimes it just breaks my heart hearing their stories, but it's good to hear.
I was watching the news yesterday, and I saw that charges had been filed against the people that were involved in Matthew Perry's death. And I'm thinking that that's good that the charges are filed, but every drug-related death should be investigated, not just the high society, not just the wealthy, but everyday people. Their loved ones related deaths to drugs should be investigated.
The person that ended up murdering my son may be convicted of something, but not of doing harm to my son. There are several people that the police are aware of that may or may not have been involved, and so they're getting looked at closely, and they may get charged with something at some point, but I don't think it'd be about my son.
There's just so much about my son. I miss him every day. I think about things. You used to think a memory as somebody else say something, and it's like a memory will pop up. Those memories, I need those memories of my son every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of him or miss him.
There is a stigma, and resources are just not readily available. There are more today than there were a year ago and more than a year before that, but if you're just a common person and you're not familiar with the government systems and the drugs that are available to people, you just don't know where to start. And so you start digging and digging and digging, and my wife and I spent a lot of time trying to find places to get to them, to get them into. And but you got to change your whole lifestyle. You got to move away. There's just so much about it that we were incapable of knowing what to do, how to help them the way we should have. It's just sad that society in general, like I said earlier, just doesn't realize that are able to treat it as a disease and get people help, easily find help. And prevention, and then I think what you said earlier is the most important thing. If you get some help and get through a drug rehab, it's what happens next. Can you continue on? How do you prevent it from relapsing? And I don't have the answer to that.
One of the most important events of Joe's life was before he passed. He was in jail. He recognized his need for Christ, and he asked me to pray with him, and I provided him scriptures. And he asked the Lord for forgiveness, and he couldn't wait to be baptized. So that has been my strength through all of this tragedy, through all the trauma, and going out and talking to other people about fentanyl, raising awareness so that no other family has to go through this tragedy that we have gone through. It's just, you can't explain it. The loss, the hurt, the wishing things could be different, but here we are. Whoever was in our house that night either opted to not use the Narcan, didn't know how to use it, or just got scared. We had 3 doses of Narcan in our house. Joe had just left jail. They give you Narcan. It was readily available right there. So he put his trust in someone that was not worthy of his trust. And his death was not an overdose. It was a murder. It was a poison. And I also wanted to relay that the loving family that I spoke about, most importantly, besides his son, was our daughter, Joe's sister, Stephanie, loved him with all of her heart and still does to this day. They were best of friends growing up and remained close throughout their adult life. And many cousins and aunts and uncles and friends, and his ex-wife, Stephanie, also loved him even after his death.